This is the award-winning In Wheel Time Car Talk Show, your weekly go-to all things automotive place, along with Mike Out of This World Mars, King Konrad DeLong, Jeff Zekin. I'm Don Armstrong, and we're so glad that you could join us. What?
And you're not. I'm not.
I'm Don Armstrong, and you're not. What was that from? Was that
Saturday Night Live? But I don't think. Yeah, Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
You pompous, ignorant. No, I won't even say that.
Jane, you ignorant. Yeah. That's some great stuff.
Yes, it was.
You know, I was really disappointed when I heard that he's pretty much a jerk.
I was too.
Did you hear that?
Chevy
I read
Chase?
some books from different places that would just.
Chevy Chase. I hadn't heard that, but
he's a real.
It was the first maybe 3 years of Saturday Night Live that I loved, and then there was a kind of a second round of it when Sandlin was on, which was great because Sandlin had so many different characters. I don't even watch any of it anymore.
I don't either.
No, I couldn't even tell you if it's still on.
No, I don't watch it either. Okay, well, we're going to visit now with one of our favorite EV guys in the entire world. Actually, it's the only EV guy that we really know. His name is Buzz Smith. Buzz, how are you, brother? It's good to see you.
I'm doing great, Don. Good to see you three.
Well, it's another day, another dollar, and a little water under the bridge, as they say. And
you get paid for this?
No, not a damn thing, actually. But we wanted to talk to you today about
your road trip.
And
yes.
And so how did the road trip go? Now, I know what you're going to say. Oh,
it was
Don,
awesome.
it went great.
No problem.
We didn't have any problems. We had a lot of electricity all the way. Am I right?
Okay. Show over. We did it.
That's it. Okay, great. Okay, that's it.
I actually have something for Don. You're going to love this, Don.
Oh, God. Here we go.
For 8 years, my wife and I have been driving plug-in hybrids. So we thought we got range anxiety because we didn't want to run on gas. We'd get a little anxious as we got low on the battery. It's completely different in a 100% battery electric car. If you run out of electricity, you're going to call a tow truck. And I knew that you guys were going to have me back on, and I could not come on this show and say that I got towed. So I'd really planned this thing out. And if you're doing a long distance,
he got towed.
If you
there is a God in heaven.
Driving long distance in EV, you should plan, because right now they're just rolling out the infrastructure. But there was this great charging, a group of chargers. It was over 15 chargers, some of them as high as 350 kilowatts, which can charge a high-end sports car in 20 minutes, just unbelievably fast. And it was located in Round Rock at this premium outlet mall. So we could have lunch, we could go shopping for a little bit. And we were driving down there, and we had a kayak on the roof of this van. The whole idea of taking this Bolt EV was to show it as an adventure vehicle. So we had to take adventure equipment with us. And this is no lie. We had a kayak on the roof. We had 2 bikes mounted on a bike rack behind the back of the car, and literally 56.6 cubic feet of camping gear. And I know that number because I used to sell these things, and it was packed to the gills. There was not room for another tennis ball in this thing. So, we had all this equipment to go with. And my concern, being an engineer, was, well, what's this going to do to the wind drag into my range? Because the car's range is 259 miles. Our first charging stop was going to be right at 178 miles from us. So we're thinking, easy, we got this, no problem. We got another 25, 30 miles of
Oh, I like the way this is going.
I knew you'd love this story, but you're not going to like the ending. Okay. Anyway, so right around West Texas, which is about a third of the way down to Round Rock, I've got Apple CarPlay on the center display, which shows how many miles to our designated target. And then on the car, it's showing me 3 different estimates of range based on how I'm driving. And I was going with the middle estimate. And right around West, I noticed that our 25-mile buffer had dropped down to about a 17-mile buffer. So I'm thinking, all right, it's obviously there's more wind drag than I'd accounted for, because I thought we'd lose about 20% of range, which would give us 270 or 207 miles of range. Still plenty, to get where we're going. So my wife, being her first real experience with range anxiety, she's looking on PlugShare, and she says, there's a level 2 charger or a DC fast charger in Belmead, Texas at a Walmart. I was like, well, I don't want to go sit at a Walmart only to have to charge again at Round Rock. I said, we're going to make this behave, no problem. Well, after Waco,
famous last words.
After Waco, where there's no more DC fast chargers, there's just level 2 chargers. So instead of being able to put 100 miles of range in 30 minutes, I'm going to get 25 miles of range for every hour I'm plugged in. That's the only thing between me and Round Rock at that point, and it's counting down even faster. And so finally, I looking at this and how many miles we're getting per kilowatt, and just doing some quick math in my head, I'm thinking, all right, we're going to get there with maybe 3 miles of range left over. So sure enough,
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I can't wait. Go ahead.
Long story short, we absolutely did make it, but my wife and I debated. There was a fork in the road that wasn't on Apple Maps. And my wife goes, go left. And I was going to go right. And I went left, being the obedient husband I am. And it was the wrong way. And immediately my wife is...
Don't blame her.
We're going to get stranded. And we didn't. We ended up making it to the chargers, plugged in, went inside and had some lunch. And we come out thinking, the car's going to be charged. We were plugged into EVgo chargers. And apparently, EVgo had an arrangement where if you had a Nissan Leaf, you could charge for free, but you could only charge for 45 minutes. Well, apparently this EVgo charger was set that no matter what kind of car you had, it just stopped at 45 minutes. It didn't tell you that it was going to do this. So we did not fill the battery all the way up. Well, fortunately, right there in the same parking lot was this bank of like 12 Electrify America chargers, very high energy, very fast charging. So we drove over there and plugged in, and it was really cool. I have the app on my phone. I had the app for 2 of the charger brands out there, but I didn't have EVgo, or it probably would have warned me. But I just waved my phone in front of this thing, and it knows who I am. It knows the car because it's talking to the car. It knows what rate to charge at. And so it started charging, and we did a little more shopping at the mall, came out, it's filled, and we got to Round Rock. Now we got to, Enchanted Rock. And we got to Enchanted Rock. And this is in the middle of nowhere as far as charging infrastructure. We had about, I think it was 79 miles of range when we arrived that night. Now we realized to get back to Austin, it was going to take more than 79 miles of range. And there was a DC fast charger in Kerrville. And Kerrville had a city park we really wanted to check out. It had bike trails. It had a river that we could kayak on. And it turned out to be gorgeous. And the charger was located at the Convention Center Visitors Bureau thing. And there was another one that was at James Avery Craftsman, the silversmith. You see a lot of their stuff at Christmas time. Apparently, they're headquartered in Kerrville. And so they've got this big campus. They've got DC fast chargers there. You can take a tour of the museum and all. So there was a lot of things to do right around these chargers. And the first time we went to Kerrville, we just went across the street to a Mexican restaurant, had lunch. We came out, car was full. So it was, exactly the gas car experience without having to go to a gas station. We just parked right across the street and went in to eat. The next day was the big trip. The next day was the big trip. It was this big circular ride, about 250 miles. And from an Enchanted Rock, we're going to go to Natural Bridge Caverns, probably not do the cavern tour. We're going to go to the Lander River in New Braunfels and kayak there. We were going to stop off at the Chevy dealership in town because they had free charging, DC fast charging. And they were kind enough to take us back to the river, while we had our car dropped off. And then from there, we were going to go to Jacob's Well, which had been shut down due to the COVID deal. When they opened up reservations, it got booked well into the future, so we couldn't make a reservation. Same thing happened with Hamilton Pool. We were going to go there. I've been going to Hamilton Pool since I was a little kid. And if you're not familiar with it, basically it was an underground lake, and the roof of the cavern, half of it caved in. So now you've got this half-covered pond with a waterfall falling from ground level down into the lower grotto, and it's just a cool place to go swimming.
But it's cold water because it's spring water.
It is definitely cold water. They talked about that on Seinfeld. Since you guys were quoting old stuff earlier, I'm sure y'all got that quote as well. But anyway, we ended up just driving by those places. We couldn't actually get inside of them because once they got rid of the ban on going there, the reservation just booked up and we couldn't get in. But we did want to show we could do the entire loop, which we did. And it was my wife's birthday, so we had a really nice dinner.
Did I miss him say something about the wrecker? Did I miss
that? So far you have.
Yeah. So you haven't gotten to the wrecker yet, have you?
No, and it actually didn't happen. What we found was in that first 180 miles, the car had learned from the experience of being driven. Now, when we picked it up, it only had 7 miles on it. So it had no experience. It was just going to assume that it could go 259 miles, which is the stated average. But it learns as you're driving. So when you do go on a road trip and it sees that, oh, you're going 75 miles an hour, there's more wind drag, I'm going to get less range, and it gives you a more realistic estimate of how far you can get on that charge.
Right.
Once we went through that first charge, it was pegged at 181. Every time we filled it up, 181. And it was very accurate. And we never had any problems charging at all.
Okay, Mr. Range Anxiety, I want you to hang on there for just a second because we need to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about that range anxiety. I want to hammer that home, so I want you to just stay right there with us, okay?
All right.
Buzz Smith, the EV-angelist. He's going to be back with us here on the In Wheel Time Car Show right after this.
Hey, Dad. Your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
From Hollywood. Every time I hear that, I just want to.
Don Armstrong.
Well, whatever.
Tell us what you won, Don.
Well, in the prize pot today is the EV-angelist. That would be Buzz Smith, and he's on the line with us right now. Hi, Buzz, and thanks for playing.
Having a blast.
Yeah. So here's what I want to ask you about. I have many things to ask you about, but the one thing I wanted to ask you about on this, how long was this journey, this loop that you made in total?
As far as hours?
Miles. Let's start with miles.
Oh, it's about 250 miles.
Okay, 200.
I may actually have that.
Okay, 250 miles.
Yeah, roughly.
And how many times did you have to stop to get charged? Twice?
One time.
One time.
Yeah.
How much did that? Now, at what level of charge was the battery when you plugged it in for that one charge?
That one I was down to about 45 miles of range left.
Okay, so you had a full charge when you left. Then you had to stop when you had 45 miles of charge left.
When we left Enchanted Rock, we had driven there from Hillsboro, so we lost about 45 miles range off of a full charge. So we probably left with around, if you start with 180 because of all the gear we were carrying, probably 140 miles of range, about 90 miles to San Marcos. So we had about 45 left.
When you charged at the Chevy dealer?
Yes.
All right.
That one, you were asking about speed of the chargers. That one was a DC fast charger, but I would call that one a DC medium charger. It was only 25 kilowatts. The Bolt can take 50.
Yeah, but it was free.
Took longer to charge than we had anticipated.
Okay, so all right, so I guess the point that I'm trying to make is no matter where you started with a full charge.
No, when
at some point your car had a full charge.
We had a full charge. Yeah.
Okay, so and because you went to this one place and you didn't have a full charge when you went there. Right. So I want to go back to when you started the trip, when you started whatever it was that took the mileage off of it. I want to start there.
Okay.
From that point until the 250-mile loop that you made, how much money out of your pocket did you pay to get your car charged?
Well, it's funny you should mention that because I have a spreadsheet where I track that through the whole thing.
Of course you do. I know that you do.
Don's over there making notes, and he's trying to calculate on his paper.
Yeah. So, okay. So how much did that cost you?
Typically, it was about 30 cents a minute for connect time. Some were more expensive. EVgo was more expensive, but we did a 975-mile ride on $32 worth of electricity.
So $32 and
everybody's grabbing their calculator.
Basically 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Your counterpart over here on the calculator, Konrad DeLong, he is making the calculation right now. And if I had the drum roll, we would have that. But I see him; he's still punching in numbers. So let's just stand by and see if you have. As a matter of fact, that music was so dang good. I think that
you're gonna play it again.
So let's
take Jeopardy music.
Yeah, for me to kind of take it at face value, if you took $32 and you bought gasoline, you'd get 16 gallons of gasoline at $2 a gallon. So theoretically, or I can't say it the way Boris says it. He says it
theoretically.
Theoretically, you got about 61 miles to a gallon on your electric vehicle as a cost basis.
Yes. Now, I also cheated. Remember, I went to a Chevy dealership. The Chevy dealership was free. Now, there probably aren't any gas stations you guys can stop off at and get free gas. Or maybe you're famous such that you can. I don't want to besmudge that.
No, we're not that famous.
We have to pay double.
Yeah.
But, the fact of the matter is that was free. And even when I accounted for paying there, I'm much more strict on my math, and I'm comparing it to $2 a gallon gasoline.
Right.
And so what I came up with is I averaged about 22 miles per gallon. So here in town, I would average at least 115 miles per gallon, probably much better than that because it's stop and go traffic in town. But on the road trips, you're going to pay more for the electricity because they've got to pay for the charger, to charge your car.
Because you will. That's why you pay more for it, because you will.
Yeah. I mean,
you have no choice.
Well, but it's just like gasoline on the interstate. It costs you a little bit more out on the interstate.
Exactly. And you're going to pay for that convenience of DC fast charging rather than sit around longer. But my calculations, I came up with averaging on the entire trip about 22 miles per gallon if I'd gone ahead and paid at the Chevy dealership. So I've got slightly different numbers than you guys do, but still, that was what I used to pay for my Lexus ES300, and there's no way I'm going on this camping trip with a Lexus ES300.
Though it would be a little bit more comfortable than a Bolt.
Yeah, but
it would. As far as the seats, I hear a lot of people complaining about the seats, but they're not usually people like me that are 5'6". To me, the seats are luxurious, but there are taller people that definitely think they need some more foam in those seats.
And
but one thing this opened my eyes. I just because I used to sell Chevrolets, the Bolt EV was one of the ones I was considering. It is in the thick of the running now. I can't understand why people would go and spend $60,000, $70,000 on an EV when they can get something like this. And I mean, it was great for this camping trip. It really was, guys. I had a blast in it. And it's very similar in form factor. You mentioned the Kia Niro EV or Kia Niro earlier. They do have an EV version of that as well. That
yes,
is
they
sold
do.
in Texas.
I have experience in that.
It's a cool car. I like that one as well. But the little SUV form factor has grown on me. I told my wife this is what we should do next so that now that I'm retired and she's getting close to retirement age, we can do a lot more camping.
So my final question to you is, and I'm going to leave you with this.
Drum roll.
Are you, after all of that you put your wife through, are you still married?
We are happily, actually.
Oh, really? So there wasn't some big blowout on the road about range anxiety or
making a left when you should have made a right.
Yeah.
No, I think the saving grace was I took her advice on the wrong turn.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
And them brownie points.
And I never rubbed her nose in it. I was just very
till now.
Till now. Now you tell everybody.
But when my wife says turn left, I turn left.
Buzz, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. We really have a good time with you. Thank you for taking the ribbing, and you know that we love you and we appreciate all that your knowledge and everything that you bring to the show. And let's talk again soon, okay?
I want to come down there and take you guys out driving in some EVs, so we're going to set that.
Well, you're going to do more than that. We're going to go to the bar at the end of the trip.
Oh, if you can keep up with me on tequila shots, I'm there.
Oh, my God.
Challenge. We have been challenged.
And we are on. Love you. Thank you. Buzz Smith, he's the evangelist.
Thank you,
Tom
sir.
has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
You know, I thought it's kind of fitting that we kind of play some sort of ZZ Top nod to them.
Cool. I love it.
Okay. Welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show. Glad you could join us on this Halloween edition. And boy, it's been a boo of a show, hasn't it? So to speak. All right, time now for Konrad's Car Clinic, and it's going to be on range anxiety.
Well, yeah, it's to a degree, and it's going to be about talking about filling up your electric car. You know, if you really look at it, the car draws electricity and stores it in a battery pack. That battery pack in your electric car is like a fuel tank. You know, it's only going to hold so much fuel, so much electricity, and then based on how much electricity it holds, it's going to deliver that as propulsion down the road of the vehicle. So different cars hold different amounts of electricity. You know, when you look at the Mitsubishi MI-EV, you know, that's only going to hold about 16 kilowatts of power. Yeah, and then when you go up to like some of the Teslas that are going to hold up to 100 kilowatts of power, and you just heard Buzz talk about how the charging system delivers by kilowatt over a period of time. So all of those calculations can tell you how long it's going to take you to charge your vehicle when you plug it into 110, and then when you plug it into 220, it'll push more kilowatts into the battery at a certain amount of time. And then if you can get on what he calls the superchargers, which is actually, I think supercharger is the name that Tesla uses for their power charging system, you know, you're pushing in at 440 amps, so it's really going to push in a big charge all of a sudden. So the Chevy Bolt that Buzz was driving holds about 40 to 60 kilowatt hours of power, and depending on how efficient the EV is, you know, that determines how many miles you're going to be able to go. And you even heard Buzz talk about how his vehicle learned how far it could go after he drove it a couple of times, and then it kind of reset itself to like 181 hours. You know, on the road, the battery feeds energy into an electric motor that's pretty compact, powerful, and quiet, and that replaces the gasoline or diesel engine in a vehicle. Almost all passenger EVs have a direct drive to move the wheels. There is no multi-speed transmission in them. It's just how quickly it turns the electric motor, and that electric motor propels the vehicle around. One of the other things that some of the EV vehicles do is they use something called regenerative braking. So what regenerative braking is, turning the electric motor backwards, and it doesn't physically turn it backwards, but it turns it backwards, and it turns it into a generator, a DC generator. So as you brake, now it's using that electric motor to slow the vehicle down, and that load it uses to slow it down pushes electricity back in the battery to extend the drive range of the vehicle. And all of that really has a bearing on how much regenerative braking effectively extends your drive range. So are you going uphill? Are you going downhill? You know, what's the weight of the vehicle? What speed do you start braking at? All of those calculations have to come into how much more electricity it's going to put into the vehicle. How long your EV is going to take to be connected to refill, all very much depends on the type of system that you're hooking up to recharge on. Most all modern EVs accept a 240-volt charge and 2 charging speeds, which ultimately puts about, at the 110 range, puts about 25 miles of range per hour of charging in the battery pack. And then there's some real high-tech ones that are going to fill up the vehicle to about 80% of its battery charge in about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's worth finding the supercharge stations versus plugging it into your house, because when you plug it into your house, you're going to have to leave it plugged in all week long.
Well, while we're talking about this, J.D. Power's 2020 Q3 Mobility Confidence Index found that North American vehicle owners have not changed their opinions on battery electric vehicles or self-driving technologies. The study, fueled by SurveyMonkey and released Tuesday, said, quote, consumers remain skeptical because of their lack of firsthand experience with these technologies and lack of education about how and why these technologies work. Despite minimal changes in consumer views, automakers continue to invest in electrification and self-driving technology, according to the study. Right now, there are about 50 battery electric vehicle models scheduled for a U.S. debut by the end of 2022. Remember Kristen Kolodge, Executive Director of Driver Interaction and Human Machine Interface Research at J.D. Power? Mm-hmm. She's the one that did all of this. U.S. consumers also expressed a desire for battery electric vehicles to have a greater range, but 45% of U.S. respondents don't have the patience to wait more than 15 minutes for a charge. There! I told you so.
Unless you're doing something like what Buzz was doing. They're at a mall, they're going shopping, they're eating some lunch.
They're floating the river.
Buzz is retired and has no job, so there's that.
He has a job.
We love you, Buzz.
The In Wheel Time show continues after this.
I may never have met you. We don't go way back. Maybe we wouldn't even be friends if we did. But when you wear a mask, you have my respect. Because your mask doesn't protect you. It protects me. I wear my mask to protect you. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Zekin. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com. You know,
hello?
Yeah. By the way,
and he'll redecorate the studio for
Mercedes-Benz GLS 600 4MATIC arrives in stores in December. Starts at $161,550, including shipping. Fully loaded, the SUV is going to top out at $200,000.
You talk about
mere chump change
a Christmas present.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's it for this episode of the In Wheel Time Car Show.
Becky.
When you're on Facebook, please give us a like, won't you? Tell your friends about us. You'll get Konrad's unicorn hunting features along with all things automotive all week long. Special thanks to all of our guests today. The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and on InWheelTime.com. 30-minute daily podcasts available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley. Our video and marketing candy is Jeffrey Zekin. This week's In Wheel Time Car Show is produced and directed by Killer Queen. For booking agent and podcast man Mike Out of This World Mars, his royalty king Konrad DeLong, and more Jeff Zekin, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now, and we hope you'll join us again live next Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to noon, right here on the Smoke and Mirrors Network. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Enjoy your weekend. Don't forget to turn your clocks back tonight. Happy Halloween, and happy Blue Moon to you. Blue moon over Miami. And be sure to get out and vote.
I thought it was a beer.
It is a beer.
Is it a beer?
Yeah.
Oh, Blue Moon beer.
It's got a little orange flavor in
go
it.
have yourself a beer, and we'll see you next week.